What's up, Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew coming at you with another Atlanta Falcons video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up. As you know, today kicked off free agency. Over the weekend, the CBA was signed by the players, so we will have football in 2020, which is great news. So I definitely want to talk about free agency and chop up some things with you guys. But as always, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, definitely hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you'll know when I've done Atlanta Falcons content. Hit that like button. If you don't follow your boy on Twitter, you can follow me at Jew Talk Sports. I appreciate everybody who continues to support the channel and all of you guys who have recently subscribed to the channel. But let's go ahead and jump right into the video. So a lot of Atlanta Falcons breaking news today. First things first, we had a couple players that were cut. Devontae Freeman was cut. Desmond Trufant was cut. Luke Stalker was cut today. I wish those guys nothing but the best. Happy trails to those guys, especially Devontae Freeman and especially Desmond Trufant. Those guys were key players that helped us get to the Super Bowl in 2016. As you know, I've stated it before. Desmond Trufant is Devontae Freeman, is one of my favorite running backs of all time to put on the red and black. Trufant also was one of the better corners to ever put on that Falcons uniform. So big up to those guys, man. I wish those guys nothing but the best. You've heard me say this in the past. I didn't see Trufant being cut coming down the pipe. I didn't see that. That definitely caught me by surprise this morning. But you've heard me say in the past that the best ability is availability. And I really feel like the two players, Devontae Freeman, and Desmond Trufant, the biggest reasons for them being let go is those guys couldn't stay healthy. Both of those guys signed big contracts, and after signing those big contracts, they didn't stay healthy. They weren't out on the field, and I really felt like that was the backbreaker for those two guys, and that's why those guys were cut. Like I said, I wish those guys nothing but the best, but I do feel like we can rebound from losing those two guys. I definitely feel like it's guys in the draft, running backs in the draft and cornerbacks in the draft that we can definitely draft and come in and fill their roles. But Luke Stalker, on the other hand, of being cut. If you remember earlier this season, Matt Ryan threw a ton of interceptions trying to throw towards Luke Stalker. I wish him nothing but the best as well, but he didn't do a good job of playing his role last year for our Atlanta Falcons. He didn't do his job. Personally, I felt like he didn't do his job or play his role well for our team. Basically, all we used him for is blocking, as a blocking tight end, because every time we threw the ball in his direction, it seemed to be a turnover of some type, whether it was the ball being intercepted or whether it was him fumbling the football. So I wish him nothing but the best as well. But for Desmond Trufant and for Devontae Freeman, those guys were key components. They were a part of the core of this team that went to the Super Bowl. So I wish those guys, like I said, nothing but the best. Like I was saying, it is some guys in the draft that I feel like can come in and fill their role. Also, I feel like for Desmond Trufant, one of the backbreakers for him, other than injury, was Isaiah Oliver and Kendall Sheffield in the second half of the season. They really started to develop. And I think Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff went back and watched tape, and watched game film of those guys and seen that those guys were really improving. And they decided to go ahead and part ways with Desmond Trufant because they felt like those guys could carry the load, and we probably can come in and draft another guy also in this upcoming draft. Now, it's a lot of different directions that I see our Atlanta Falcons going in this draft. But before I talk about the draft, I also want to talk about Hayden Hurst, who we picked up today. We traded with the Baltimore Ravens and picked up Hayden Hurst, the tight end. He goes about 6'4", 250 pounds. Hayden Hurst is a very good tight end, and I definitely see him coming in and being able to fill that Austin Hooper role. To be honest, he's just a cheaper version of an Austin Hooper. He pretty much can do everything Austin Hooper can do. And to me, Hayden Hurst actually probably is a little bit faster than Austin Hooper. and he made some big catches last year and did a good job of stretching the seams of defenses, running down the rails and making some key catches. He had like a 61-yard touchdown. He did play at in South Carolina or at South Carolina University when he was in college. I did go ahead and watch some of his tape, and I did watch him last year when he was playing with Lamar Jackson, and he did a good job because the Baltimore Ravens like to run the 2 tight end set, and him and Andrews did a great job of catching the football because the Ravens were a run heavy team. So Hayden Hurst can block and he can catch the ball down the field. He's good at running after catch. He gets a lot of yak yardage, and he's a very physical tight end. But him and Austin Hooper, body types are pretty much similar. Both of them are 6'4", around 250 pounds, 260 pounds. And both of them are really good tight ends. So I do think it was a very good pickup for our Atlanta Falcons by Thomas Dimitroff. It did cost us our 2nd round pick, and I believe it was a 5th round pick. And we're getting the Baltimore Ravens 4th round pick. And it was our second. We got 2 2nd round picks. It is our number 55 pick, which is the pick that we got from the New England Patriots when we traded them Mohamed Sanu. So we still have one of our 2nd round picks, which I think is number 40, our 47 pick, if I'm not mistaken. So we still have one of our 2nd round picks. So I definitely think this was a great move by our Atlanta Falcons of picking up Hayden Hurst. And I think that the Atlanta Falcons are doing a good job of bringing in players that are role players, but that can definitely come in and play their part and do their job. Also, over the weekend, we re-signed our fullback, Keith Smith, and I did make a video about Keith Smith. And we also re-signed Tyler Davison. And Tyler Davison is one of those guys that I like, those big uglies, one of those big hippos, a space eater. And we got both of those guys on a 3-year deal. And both of the deals were really good deals for our Atlanta Falcons. It wasn't huge money that we had to pay out to those guys. And I think that the Atlanta Falcons are doing a good job of remodeling this team and restructuring this team. We are under a semi-rebuild or reconstruction. Another thing I've been hearing is a lot of Atlanta Falcons fans complaining about the salary cap and complaining about Thomas Dimitroff. But to be honest, I like what Thomas Dimitroff and Rich McKay is doing currently. I like what they're doing with this roster. And I really think that those guys have something up their sleeve. I really feel like a Dante Fowler or a Robert Quinn is going to be signed because we're cutting Trufant and cutting Desmond Trufant and cutting Devontae Freeman, it adds some salary cap, and cutting Luke Stalker, it opens up some salary cap for us. And as you know, Dante Fowler did say that he wants to play for the Atlanta Falcons. So I really think that those guys have something big up their sleeve. And if they can pull off bringing a Dante Fowler to this team or bringing a Robert Quinn in, it could be big. And I definitely see us possibly going and grabbing a corner out the draft, whether it's with our number 16 pick or whether it's with our 2nd round pick. With us letting go of Desmond Trufant, I definitely feel that we're going to bring in another corner to come in and compete for that number 1 corner spot or number 2 corner spot. I definitely think we're going to add depth through the draft, but I think they're doing a good job of reshaping this team. And another thing that I was wanting to mention is when I talked about a lot of fans complaining about the salary cap situation as far as Thomas Dimitroff, one thing we have to realize as fans is that we couldn't sign everybody, and we drafted so well in 2016 that it was impossible for us to go in and sign all of those guys that we brung in 2016. So we had to let some of these guys walk, but I think they let the right guys walk. If you remember, in the last couple seasons, we have went in and signed the right players. I feel like Thomas Dimitroff did sign the right guys. We still have our core unit together. Grady Jarrett being re-signed, Matt Ryan being re-signed, Julio Jones being re-signed, Deion Jones being re-signed, all of those guys being re-signed. I feel like we're the right guys to pay. They did go in and they had to pay somebody, and I think that they paid the right players. I think that Austin Hooper is replaceable, Devontae Freeman is replaceable, and Desmond Trufant is replaceable. So I do think that the guys that they did re-sign are the right guys to re-sign. They are guys that consistently get the job done and consistently compete and consistently play at a high level. The Vic Beasleys of the world, the Desmond Trufants of the world, and the Devontae Freemans, the players that were recently let go and cut or we let walk in free agency are guys that were inconsistent. The only player that I can clearly say that was pretty consistent that we let go is Austin Hooper. But I just believe that Austin Hooper was maybe mostly a cap casualty because we couldn't afford to bring him back. And you can replace tight ends, but it's hard to replace a quarterback. It's hard to replace a good defensive lineman. And it's very hard to replace a Deion Jones, who's a transcendent linebacker because of his speed and his athleticism. Deion Jones is not your typical linebacker. So we had to keep our core unit together. And I do believe the Atlanta Falcons have re-signed the right players and they kept the correct core players together. And I like what I'm seeing out of the Atlanta Falcons of the players that they're bringing back. If you notice what the Atlanta Falcons are doing, they're bringing back role players. Tyler Davidson's a role player. We need him to help stop the run. Keith Smith is a role player because he's an excellent special teams player. And we also need him to help improve our running game. So all of the guys that are being re-signed are guys we had to re-sign. And I feel like we re-signed the right players. So as much as even I may have came down on Thomas Dimitroff in the past, I feel like he is spending the money in the right areas. And I feel like with them cutting the players that they cut today, we definitely could see them bring in a very good pass rusher, whether it's somebody on the cheap like Marcus Golden or Robert Quinn, or whether it's a splash signing like a player like Dante Fowler Jr. But I definitely think that these guys have something big up their sleeve. So don't be surprised in the next couple of days if you hear us signing a big name pass rusher, or on a lesser note, a pass rusher that can come in and play a role like I was just talking about, being a role player, somebody that can come in and possibly give us 10 sacks like a Marcus Golden, who had 10 sacks last year for the Giants, or possibly a Dante Fowler, who had about 11 sacks last year with the Rams, or maybe to a lesser note, Robert Quinn, who had 11 and a half sacks for the Cowboys last year. But be on the lookout for those players. Have your radars up. Definitely be watching, looking on Twitter, looking on the NFL Network. But I definitely think that these guys, Thomas Dimitroff and Rich McKay, have something big up their sleeve. Now in the draft, like I was saying, I could really still see us going in and grabbing Kayvon Chaisson, or grabbing a pass rusher, or even grabbing another nose tackle like a Ross Blacklock, or maybe a Raekwon Davis from the Alabama Crimson Tide. One of those guys, I definitely can see us grabbing one of those guys. I don't see us moving up in this draft, but I definitely see us possibly going in and grabbing one of those guys that I mentioned. Also be on the lookout for a guy like a AJ Terrell with that second round pick. And I definitely think that we're going to go in this draft and grab us a running back. I can see us bringing in a Cam Akers out of Florida State. I can see us bringing in a J.K. Dobbins out of the Ohio State University, or a Zach Moss out of Utah. Even maybe we might try to shock the world and even bring in Swift from Georgia. They might use that pick, that number 1 pick at number 16. If we can sign one of these free agent defensive ends, we could possibly go and try to grab Swift. If they don't think that none of these guys at number 16, none of those edge rushers are worthy, I could really see the Falcons going in and trying to grab a Swift from out of Georgia, the running back from Georgia. So definitely be on the lookout for all of these things. I definitely think that we're doing the right thing. Like I said, I like what they're doing with the core of this team. I think, like I said, they're bringing in players that are going to play a role, and not so much bringing in the splash names, the big name guys, because as I said before, football is a team sport. You don't need great running backs on your team. You don't need great players at every single position, or 5-star players or Pro Bowl players at every single position. You just need guys that'll come in and play a role and do their job. So I like where we're moving. I feel like we're moving in the right direction. You guys let me know in the comment section below what you think. If you think the Falcons are moving in the right direction, if you think the Falcons are moving in the wrong direction, if you have some questions for me, definitely drop that in the comment box. I appreciate all the questions I've been getting. I definitely try to answer and respond as quick as I can to you guys. I've been very busy, but definitely drop those comments below and I'll be happy to answer any question you had. But I definitely wanted to give you guys a video and chop some things up with this free agency because it was a very exciting day. Let me know if you would like me to hear me talk about some other free agent news, as far as the other teams, as far as like the Cowboys and some of the other big names. You seen the DeAndre Hopkins was moved to the Cardinals. Let me know if you want me to talk about some other free agent news as well. But as always, Falcons Nation, this been your boy Jew. I'll holler at you guys in the next video. And as always, Falcons Nation, rise up. Peace. I'll holler at you guys in the next video.